Hi everybody, Msfs Simmer here. So, welcome back to Midway Airport as we're continuing the VFR World Tour using the TBM 850. And we've got the Chicago skyline there as Southwest Jet looks like it's pushing back and ready to move. So, we're going to be heading out over the lake today. So, let me go ahead and start getting ready. So, gone ahead, quickly done a second leg here because this happens to be an off week for NASCAR in the 2022 series. So there actually isn't a weekend or a Saturday flight. So I figured, well, we'll put this in its place. And it gives me an excuse to go ahead and fly again pretty quickly. Because right now, obviously, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. But again, 234 legs. It's going to be a little, probably a little less enthusiasm here and there as we go along. So we'll see. But let me go ahead, get the plane set up, and then we'll get going and, see what Ducky 1955 has got for us on this leg. All right, so I've got my taxi light on. Got everything set. So I did learn there's a distance up here as well, which is to the waypoint. So that will allow us to keep this on the map, which is a good thing. And let's see if we can go a little further out here so that we can kind of see where we're going. But we're going to turn the parking brake off. And then the other thing was, I was saying when I sped up, like it was because of the weight of the plane that took a lot, but they've modeled a certain, what they call beta, which again, it makes sense if you're a pilot and makes less sense if you're not. And so it just gets going at that point when you're in that stage. So, and we don't need to be in that stage at this point. So let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and get myself back because basically once we get moving, then it is in pretty good shape. So I'm gonna run over to the runway that's down over here. Now it's slowing down on me again. Alright, I probably went too far down is the problem. So let's see. There we go. So, just need to get myself a little slower there. Okay, I'm going to get the flight director on. And then this is the runway right here already. So we're going to take off on this runway, because there's not really a reason to take off on any runway other than the one we're near. So we're going to line up here and basically be heading, for the most part, straight toward downtown Chicago. So right at the skyline. What could be a better view? And so yeah, this just turns on when anything happens. So just trying to get set here. And so before we get going, it's always good kind of start that narrative. So what we've got here is a leg 2. We're going to be heading from Chicago Midway International to Buffalo Niagara International, which is Kilo Bravo Uniform Foxtrot. 477 nautical miles, a little less meandering, certainly not as far. We're doing a little bit of up and down just to see some sights here and there and fly over certain things, but for the most part, this is a relatively direct flight. So what he's got for us here After departing Midway, head northeast to downtown Chicago. You'll cross the coast of Lake Michigan just north of Soldier Field, home of the NFL Bears, and North Island Park, home to the Chicago Field Museum, Shedd Aquarium, and Adler Planetarium. It was also formerly the site of Meigs Field, fondly remembered as home base in the early versions of Microsoft Flight Simulator. To the north, you can see Navy Pier, currently a park and retail center, but which during World War II was a base where naval aviators learned carrier landings on small carriers like USS Sable, plying Lake Michigan. So that is going to get us what we need. So at this point, we're going to do the nav. We're going to set the altimeter. So again, it's wanting to turn us a bit, but that's okay. We've got our altimeter set appropriately. What I want to do is get myself back to 3,500. So yeah, when I turn on the autopilot, it basically like sets everything, or when I start working with it. So I did spend time going through the manual, so I should be a little more familiar with the plane. Obviously, things are gonna be interesting. All right, we're testing. We're gonna turn it on. We're flying as normal with the weather. The trend monitor. There's a lot of information we can get down here. So right now I've got it set to the flight timer. We'll see over time over the various flights if things change and we cover different things. But for now, let's release, start rolling, and get ourselves in the air. So I want to get myself up there in torque. I want to be careful. I don't want to go too far. But 100 is always good, so we've got to remember that it takes a little while for it to respond. It can be over 100 on the climb. Again, rotation speed for this aircraft is 85, so that's where we're at. So we'll go ahead and get ourselves off the tarmac. I'm going to work really hard to remember to lower the gear this time. Luckily, mechanics were able to take a look at the plane. I didn't do too much damage, and you can see the flight timer is automatically started. So this aircraft is equipped basically with a sensor that when there isn't weight on the wheels, it knows it's in flight. So, pretty nice. So we're going to set this to V speed, and we're going to go up 500. I'm going to turn on the autopilot, and we're going to do that. And this will then again turn us a little bit south of the skyline. But let me increase my path a bit here. Get our flaps back up. Oops, 1,000 feet a minute. Then I should be able to go here. And again, we'll get ourselves at 3,500. And we are all set here. So, beautiful Chicago skyline coming up. Got the Chicago River. I think that's what we've got coming in there. It may be coming in a little bit more in the center. But you've got the Sears Tower, the Willis Tower now. Navy Pier is out there, so that's what we're seeing over there. And then really the, we're going to see the various things. So the United Center, we may have already passed it, because it's kind of due west of the city. Oh, it's right there. So that's where the Chicago Bulls play. Wrigley Field's up there. It's north of the city, so we're not really going to be able to probably easily see that now. Comiskey Park, where the cellular field is where the White Sox play over there. So here you go. Here's Soldier Field. And then you've got the museum campus here. So the Museum of Science and Industry is right here at the end. That's the Adler Planetarium. That's the Shedd Aquarium. And that's Meigs Field. I do have that loaded in here into the sim as an extra field. It was one of those things you could do that they pulled from the old version. It was kind of a 40th anniversary thing, so I do have that loaded into Microsoft Flight Simulator, so that's why we have an airport there where normally, as they said, today you wouldn't. We've got a tanker out there. Whoops. And then we've got Navy Pier that we're passing over here. So we'll take a peek back here as we leave. Just get a nice look. That's the John Hancock building. So if you ever come see the Chicago Air and Water Show, which I would highly advise, wonderful place to see an air show. These are the beaches. You're basically going to be along Oak Street Beach and over here, and they've got like 5.5 miles of shoreline that they use for the air show. So one of the really, really coolest places you can see an air show anywhere in the world, I would say. You know, it's one thing to be on an airfield or at a, you know, an Air Force base or whatever. Those are cool too, but it's really, really fun. I love that environment, and usually they used to do it during Taste of Chicago, which was a time that you basically were able to sample. They'd have vendors down, sample all kinds of food. It ran around the July 4th Independence Day holiday in the U.S., and well, I guess the Air and Water Show was later because it used to be the third week in August. It seems it was it's a little bit earlier now. I think they've moved it around to keep clear of things. Looks like we've already hit 3,500 feet. Not surprising. It's not that high, but we're 4.5 minutes into the flight. So for now, I'm going to leave it on the flight timer because I think that'll help us. What's our airspeed? We're at about 200. We're going at about 100. So, I think I said in the first leg episode that the plane has a range of like 1,300 nautical miles. That's really if it is running super efficiently, and you'd basically be running your torque at like 59%. But obviously you're going significantly slower then. You're only going like 130 or 140 knots. So definitely the feedback I've gotten from watching a video by A330 driver, who did an excellent tutorial on this plane, by the way. So if you're looking for some details on that, you know, I'd advise, you know, if you want it from an airline pilot versus some guy who's on the internet doing flight simming, but knows nothing about aviation, which is me. I didn't turn on my landing lights. Let me do that. We'll put on pulse. We don't need taxi anymore. But everything else should be good, I think. I think we're all set. So, you know, the problem is with as low as we're flying, because obviously every time you have the lights on, they're gonna wear out faster. So, you know, they were talking about in some of those videos, for example, like how you'd want to turn them off so that you don't burn them out and whatever, but when we're below 10,000 feet, and, you know, we're supposed to have them on, so it's kind of the nature of it. So 187.1 miles, 186.9 now, you can see. But we are going straight across. So we have passed waypoint 1. That was where we talked about all those things on the Lakeshore. There's only 5 waypoints. I do have the right flight plan loaded into my things this time, so I'm not looking at something in Europe and wondering what's going on. But we basically have 79, no, we have 200 nautical miles to go between the one waypoint and the other. So yes, I understand I've turned my sound off. I'm just trying to get back. I am running FSLTL for injection right now. I don't know that we're going to see a whole lot as low as we're flying, but at the airports it gives us some stuff. You know, and the nice thing is you know, we probably won't have too much frame rate as far as frame rate stutters and things like that. But I would think a couple hours, you know, maybe to get all of this done, but we're at least going a little quicker. So in theory, I can go 121. So what you can do in this plane is you can put this into 850 mode, and that basically eliminates the limiter and lets you go faster. So, you know, I may go ahead and just try that out. I'm going to keep an eye. You know, I don't want to overheat anything, but you can see I'm already up to 110 with that little bit of throttle increase. So we can go almost up to 121. Let me just tweak the throttle a little bit more and see what that turns into. So that'll probably be pretty good, and that's gaining us right now about, might be an extra 20 knots, so we're coming up on 220. We're at 218 according to my reading in Navigraph, but that was up from 206, so you know we've gone up about, but now we're indicated airspeed 220. So this is the normal cruise that they do suggest. Now, usually you're higher up. The lower we are, the more fuel we're going to burn. But once again, because this isn't a career series and I'm not doing things like that and you know, worried about cost, we're not running any kind of software that's doing that, we'll just load the fuel up with plane. We'll load the fuel up with plane. Wow. I don't usually do stuff like that. We'll load the plane up with fuel. And fully each time, and that'll give us basically 1,000 nautical miles, even at that high range. I think it's a little bit less. Let me see. I think I have the chart up. So I'm taking a look here. So yeah, it's actually closer to like 745 at sea level. So where I'm at now, and then at 10,000 feet it would go to 944, so we increase the range by like 200 miles. So certainly, like, you know, as we're flying over the ocean or we're doing something like that where they're likely going to be longer legs, I'll go ahead and keep that in mind. So I'm just trying to get things set, figure out what I want to see, where I want to see it. Get a drink of water, stuff like that. All right. But yeah, we're going 223, so we are almost going another 100. You know, our temperature has increased. It's still, yeah, maybe going up a little bit, but we're still within the range. But I thought being over 100 would be bad, but they suggest that no, this is kind of what this plane should be doing, and that's part of what the 850 has done over the 700, which is what it's based on, I guess, is that it basically gives you that little increase in horsepower when you put the plane in that 850 mode. And so there are limiters that are supposed to be here, but again, the limiters can fail. So you do, you know, they do encourage you in the manual to kind of keep an eye on things and just, you know, make sure that you've got what you want. And so again, you can press the heading bug and you can see that moved around very quickly. You know, but I'm trying to think of what else I may have misstated now that I've read the manual. Again, the torque is, you know, something you want in the range. You know, the propeller, you know, do I want it in the max? Not sure I do, so let's see. We'll see what that does to the airspeed and how... Ooh, but now doing that, our torque went way up, so maybe we do want it up there. Because, yeah, the red line, it's actually green. I think we were only at 100, so yeah, maybe we're okay. Because this is really, I think, the prop angle, so that's why it makes a little bit of a different sound. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at this, but yeah, I mean, I think we're clear. I don't know, we're right there, but... So, I guess as long as we don't get warnings will be okay, because I don't know that it really said, you know, put it back on anything else. You know, maybe what we can do, instead of going back like all the way to prop, I can just pull it back a tiny bit, and that'll give us just a little bit of a fall off. And you know, we might lose a mile or two, but then we're not redlining it the whole time. So just makes me feel like a better plane owner, that I'm not just beating my plane up. Alright, so we've got Michigan, the other side of Lake Michigan. So we're going to be flying over 2 Great Lakes today on this journey. We're going to be flying over a little bit of Lake Michigan here. This is the southern tip. And again, I'm not saying things this way just to make people like, what does he think, we're stupid, whatever. If you're from the U.S., you understand this. But I want to make the assumption I might have people outside the U.S. viewing this series or anything on the channel. And so I never really want to make that assumption that people always know what we're talking about. But Lake Michigan's, you know, kind of the furthest Great Lake. If you went into the 5 Great Lakes and went, you know, as far as you could for the most part, Lake Michigan, the tip of Lake Michigan at Chicago is pretty much it if you're coming from the Atlantic Ocean. You know, with the St. Lawrence River, the St. Lawrence Seaway coming in there, going through the through any, you know, I think there's locks on that channel. I know the Erie Canal goes like through New York State and gets you to New York, but I don't know that the Seaway was fully navigable without some changes, and you definitely have to do something to get around Niagara Falls, you know, and that's one of the things we are going to be nearby. Now, I modified the route. Well, I shouldn't say I modified the route, but I want a good approach to the airport, and so really following approach procedures. We should be coming in runway 5 because we've got wind of about 10 knots. So that's not insignificant, especially in a smaller plane like this. In reality, now again, I'm flying clear skies. I probably could have flown with real weather. I don't know that I'd want to change it on the fly here. Maybe I'll be more aware of that in the future. And again, feedback is great. You know, is that something you're interested in? Like, hey, if you could fly real weather most of the time, we'd appreciate it. Or do you prefer, hey, I'd rather just be able to very, very clearly see everything, so just keep it on clear skies and go from there. But to some degree, you know, the route it's suggesting to me, and the route he you know, he had in, because I don't know, you know, in theory we should have taken off from 13 Center. I'm not sure that we did. I don't think we did. Yeah, we did not, so that wouldn't have worked. So, but we're here at the lake's edge. So now, woo, we are getting buffeted around a little bit. So we are over here. We're passing over. Not sure what we're passing over here. I suppose if I zoom in a little bit more, let me look. Benton Harbor, Michigan. So there's the Benton Harbor Airport. But as I said, you know, we're passing over a couple of the Great Lakes, so we're also going to be passing over a good portion of Lake Erie. We are actually heading to Cleveland, which is interesting. So they determined they wanted to get over to that. But you know, Lake Erie is pretty much on the other side of Michigan, and then you've also got Lake Superior up at the top, which really kind of hangs off. But and then I'm trying to remember if it's Lake Ontario. I think this is Huron that is on the other side. This is terrible of me. I should know this. Yes, it's lake, or is it not listed? Is that not a Great Lake? That doesn't make sense. Because Lake Ontario is listed as Lake Ontario. That's the one that's east of Lake Erie, which should make sense. So I would think this is Lake Huron, but I'm not seeing any words, but I also don't see Lake Michigan in Michigan. So, oh, I guess I do in one part of it. But let's see. Maybe if I zoom in more. Sorry. You can still see what's happening on the plane, which is what you need to be viewing. No, either way. There's a lake on the other side of Michigan, so you know, Michigan looks like, we always talk about like an oven mitt a little bit. So, you know, always a good thing for getting your bearings. All right. So, where we're headed, we're going to waypoint 2. So basically, head east across Lake Michigan, Kalamazoo and Battle Creek, which is home of Kellogg's Foods, to the next waypoint directly over the Daimler Chrysler plant in Pontiac, Michigan. So that is an auto plant, you know, and probably one of the larger ones. So he continues to say the Detroit area is still home to almost all of the major U.S. auto manufacturers, although most of the actual plants have moved elsewhere, mostly overseas. But this is one of the ones. I think it's still active. But, alright, so let me get my bearings a little bit and see. Alright, so I see Battle Creek and Kalamazoo. They're kind of in the center of the state. Again, I don't know that we're going to be able to tell, oh, look, it's the Kellogg's building or something. But if you've got Netflix and you like some comedy, Jerry Seinfeld just recently released a movie called Unfrosted, which is the unauthorized history of Pop-Tarts, which obviously is key to Kellogg's. And so they did talk about those areas and so forth. So it's interesting and apropos that we're going ahead here and flying over in that direction. But Kalamazoo is going to be kind of the next big city. And it's interesting because there's Battle Creek International Airport in Kalamazoo, but then there's Battle Creek Executive. Well, actually, is Battle Creek Executive at Kellogg is the airport, and we're going to come very close to that on our path. So we may be able to see, or at least say, I think that might be the Kellogg's headquarters, but we'll find out. But we've got a little ways to go. That's probably 80 nautical miles in. You can see we've got 128 to go to the waypoint, which again is in Pontiac, Michigan, over the Daimler Chrysler plant. So that is not the Battle Creek location and so forth. So most of, probably everywhere in the world, I'm guessing we're just going to see a bunch of farms or a bunch of forests, but that's what we've got here. Again, Michigan, nothing really tall, so it looks like the plans that he had, he was flying at 5,500 feet, it seems, but to me that just doesn't let us enjoy the beauty quite as much and enjoy what the whole point of this is supposed to be, which is some VFR flight as we go along. But what have we got? Coming up on 22 minutes of flight time. So we've gotten in here a good ways. But just looking around, enjoying the view. I'm just also trying to make sure that... should I change the source? No, I should not. It's not the ground power unit, but I probably don't need it off battery anymore, though, because I should be able to go off the main generator. Well, it says battery off, so maybe I do want the battery on, and because it started blinking. I might want to check in it. I'm just wondering if that drains the battery more than I need it to. And obviously that would have an impact. Alright, so I've zoomed in quite a bit on Kalamazoo and Battle Creek on my Navigraph, but I have now appeared on the chart. We're a little ways away still, but basically where that road is doing that, we're almost on the eastern side of Kalamazoo then. So Kalamazoo's really kind of here. The airport's going to be over in that direction. Let's see what we can see here. Might as well enjoy some of the views. I did watch the first video. It doesn't seem that the engine's terrible. It's extremely loud in my ears. But I think it's okay for you guys when I'm out here. So, you know, obviously this gives you a bit broader view here. But yeah, basically around these lakes here, so right about there I think is where the airport is. It's, you know, it's just past the bend here. So we should see it come into view, and basically the runway's basically north-south. So it's going to be that way. Again, you have to know we're flying basically almost due east. We're at a heading of 79. So we're, you know, 11 degrees from due east. Oh, you know, this is, well, is it? No. Never mind, this is not the bend. This is not Kalamazoo. This is an earlier bend, I'm sorry. I'm terrible at my VFR flying. There's a bend that we really can't see yet, and that's where we're headed, because I'm like, we're nowhere near and I'm by the water, but I see this little lake, and now I see it on the map to some degree. But we might have to fly higher in certain areas, but I think it's going to be a little while before 3,500 feet wouldn't be possible. We may choose, again, to do other things, because I think pretty soon we're going to start heading off the east coast of North America and start heading toward Greenland and things like that. I think we're going to do that sooner rather than later. That's an interesting looking... Well, I guess it's just warehouses. I thought it was like an A-frame building or something. Alright, so we've got a couple major interstates coming together, well, or an interstate and a road, maybe, coming together there. But there is the Kalamazoo Airport. That makes more sense. So this is the bend here. So now we're kind of over the western edge of Kalamazoo. Looks like we got a golf course down there. I think there's some PGA event in Kalamazoo or Battle Creek, but again, this isn't Battle Creek yet. Battle Creek is a good ways past this, so... but there, again, is the Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport, and we'll be much closer to the Battle Creek Executive Airport at Kellogg when we get to it. So like I said, we may be able to see... Oh, there's a lot of baseball stadiums down there. I'm a big baseball fan, so... But it's easy to notice those from the air, too. Alright, and we are gonna, as you can see, overfly kind of the tip of that water feature. And that is how I see the path going. Then there's just a lot of forest, according to this. A lot of wooded area, but it looks like there's more development and things in there. And then we get to the Battle Creek Executive Airport, and that may be about all I've got until we get over and start getting to the waypoints that they've given us. So I did talk about the fact that while I am unless you guys tell me otherwise, these are going to be full flight episodes, because what's the point of a VFR series if you don't let people get the visuals? So now we're outside of Kalamazoo. So let's see if we can see the airport behind us. Yeah, it's way out there. So Kalamazoo's not small. Definitely gets us there, but yeah, we're gonna get through all these. Now there is like some water just before, but I think we're gonna go south of this, and so this is maybe halfway, 2/3 of the way through the forest, and then you know, this area here kind of does show up as a more inhabited or commercial area. It's yellow on the maps, which tells us it's more populated. That's kind of a little arm of Battle Creek, but then kind of right over there would be, you know, maybe there is going to be the executive airport. So we're getting close, and we're moving along pretty well. Let me just make sure nothing looks off here. I mean, I haven't been monitoring my instruments at all for nearly 7 minutes. Last time we looked, it was coming up on 22. Alright, so that is the Battle Creek Kellogg Airport that we're seeing there. You know, it's a good size, but yeah, I'm just wondering if that is maybe the Kellogg's headquarters or whatever. But we're gonna get by there. We're getting a good amount of movement. You can see the plane kind of bouncing around, but that would be probably expected. So, I don't know. There's the airport. Those look like really flat buildings. I don't know that I'd say that looks like any kind of corporate headquarters. You know, that probably looks the most likely. But you would think the Kellogg's executive airport, that the facility would be nearby somewhere. But if it is, I don't know what it looks like, so I'm not sure where it would be. I don't know that you care. But that is where we're at there. Again, we're below 100 miles now, so we're doing okay. So I do also have an understanding of the Black Square Manual and where dealing with failures is. So if somehow we have something happen, which we really shouldn't, given that the plane is very new. You know, we've got a little bit of a test flight on it, a partial flight, and then you know, the one I did, so you know, we've got maybe 3-4 hours of usage on this thing. But I did see, as I was going through the engine trend monitor, that it showed about 197 hours to engine inspection or whatever, you know, so as opposed to what I think we've typically seen in career mods is the 100-hour inspection. In this case, it's telling me 200 hours. But something may happen then. I did see, you know, I did look before I took off. The engine was still at 98%. So, yeah, my biggest thing will be remembering to lower the landing gear. You know, and honestly, what really happened is a lot of these GA aircraft, like in many cases, when I'm flying something like this, I'm usually like in a Cessna 172, and that's fixed gear and stuff. So it's just one of those that I just assume the gear is just sitting there and hanging there, and it didn't in this place. So it was sad to just scrape along the runway, but obviously we couldn't taxi or anything at that point either. Now we're out the west side of Battle Creek. Is that a bunch of solar panels? I'm thinking that's what we're seeing. Yeah, I would say that's a solar farm of some sort. But You know, we're going to have a pretty good long leg from Cleveland to Buffalo as well, over to Niagara Falls. It's probably going to be about the same length. I don't remember exactly. Might be 187, so it might be a little bit shorter, but basically between this leg and the other leg, it's like, 300 and... Apologize, yawning there. 387 nautical miles or so. So it's pretty substantial. Now let me see. Is it giving me anything? Right, so I'm assuming that's telling me we're going to be there in about 19 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, let you enjoy the view. But I'm going to mute my microphone for a bit till we get a little bit closer to the Daimler Chrysler plant. So silly me, I apologize. Again, a new series, just trying to get in the flow of how I want to do it. I forgot to show you what our flight plan for today was. So, this is Navigraph. You can see where we're at. But, we took off from Midway. We're getting close to the second waypoint. We're going to head down here to Cleveland and then up into the Niagara area and then come down to Kilo Bravo Uniform Foxtrot for landing. But that is our direction of travel here. So as I was going through and taking a look at it as we're getting up here to Pontiac, suddenly realized, yeah, I never explained that to you guys, and then obviously you don't know where we're going. So that doesn't help anybody. But Detroit's pretty big, and after we hit the plant up in Pontiac, we're going to have about 20 miles to get there. So that is the third waypoint, but we'll get more detail as we've been doing before, kind of do the narrative after we go ahead and pass the previous waypoint. So I'm not quite sure how large this plant is going to be. It's definitely going to be interesting. I apologize. I'm also over on Navigraph, and I do obviously have my headset on so I can talk to you, and I realized I don't have any sound in my ears, which means you don't have any sound of the plane either. So it might be hard enough to just enjoy and watch as we fly, and then suddenly there's no sound either, which is probably less enjoyable. So definitely a good amount of good-sized ponds, lakes, whatever you want to call it, around. Yeah, I'm just not sure we're going to be far enough, because basically the north side of Detroit, there's a space between the lakes, and like I said, I'm almost positive that's got to be Huron, but up north. So yeah, there's this little lake something. It's coming up on my Navigraph, so once I see the full piece of it, so that's kind of the north side of Detroit that is going to be by this other lake that's in between the Great Lakes, but they're connected together. I think it's Lake St. Clair. It's not quite up there yet, but that's probably what it looks like I'm seeing. That's interesting because it's Lake St. Clair, but the Clair doesn't... I don't think it has an E on the end. Maybe it's not showed up yet. No, I think it's just C-L-A-I-R. Normally St. Clair would be C-L-A-I-R-E, but that is not what we are seeing. So the one thing too, at some point I'm going to have to be careful of, because again, this is a much more realistic plane. Like, icing can be real in this thing, so it definitely talked a ton about that in the manual and so forth. So I want to be careful with that, because that will obviously be problematic otherwise. But it says usually that's going to be like 10 degrees Celsius when that might start forming. Well, we're right there, but so I don't know if there's any visuals that we'd see about that, but not sure. So I guess I need to be careful anything, because we are going to be heading, I think, a little bit more north into Canada and stuff like that. So I want to be careful there. All right, 23 miles. Again, he talked about the waypoint being kind of directly over the plant, so I don't think we need to look for anything until we get closer there. interesting. I wonder if this is a test track for the cars. I mean, it's not listed as anything, but that would seem to be a logical thing given where we're at and so forth, but I don't know why else you'd have such a large round thing. Yeah, I mean, that definitely looks like something like that, so it might be exactly that. Test facilities, kind of one on one side, one on the other. And then some more over there, so maybe this is a different auto manufacturer. Or maybe it's the same one, and it's just a smaller plant than the one that the author of this, or the creator of this set of journeys, has chosen to share with us. But yeah, with only 5 waypoints too, there's less text. It's still a page in the 248-page manual. But definitely a shorter description. Alright. So, what are we, 12 miles? 14 miles? 14 miles, so still a good ways away. Still says we're doing 227. We're not in the red on either one, so we're doing good. Oil pressure's pretty even. Oh, I see. Okay, one's oil pressure and one is engine. So we're in the green, so I would think that would be a good thing. But 71 in the cabin, 50 outside. They did talk about how in certain weather, like if it gets to be, you know, -20 or -30 outside, which would likely happen more because we're higher up, so it's probably not going to happen on this series, you know, unless we're in some mountainous area, that it could be challenging for the system to keep the temperature kind of in that range. So that's when you have to play with the bleed air on versus auto, because that will help make things a little bit warmer. Alright, so we are getting close. Less than 10 miles, but could be that facility there, I don't know. And we're headed toward that for sure, and I assume it's going to be something that looks more than just kind of these housing subdivisions and things like that. But you'd also wonder, like, a lot of this area here, like, are they, you know, were they families who were dependent on that auto plant? Well, maybe the auto plant's there, but we're not going, it said directly over, so. As I said, the next waypoint directly, oh, hold on. The next waypoint's directly over the Daimler Chrysler plant, so. But we're still 6 miles away. Seems to be turning a bit, like we're fighting the wind, so I don't know if we've got a wicked crosswind that it's battling or what. And then we're going to turn right and head south and go to Detroit. So, now straight ahead of us is no lake. It's just a little river that connects up. And it might not be that small of a river, because, again, shipping can get through and get to Lake Michigan and get around to Chicago and things like that, so. But let's head out of the plane. So, thinking it's this facility there, which is pretty impressive. It's pretty large, but it's about the right location. Yeah, we're turning. Again, the waypoint would be there, but I would say, yeah, that is the Daimler Chrysler plant. And you can see the oh boy. You could see the Chrysler logo on the building right there. So if you pause the video and take a look, or fly over it later. But it's pretty neat that there's that kind of detail just in, I don't have any scenery. There was no scenery recommended or anything. That's just all default what we're getting, again, with the map enhancement from Bing, so it's newer stuff, but it's pretty crazy that you can get that kind of detail on it. Alright, so now we're heading to waypoint 3. So, from here, we'll turn south to central Detroit, with the next waypoint directly over Comerica Park and right across the street from Ford Field. So Comerica Park will be Detroit Tigers baseball team, and Ford Field will be the Detroit Lions football team. A turn to the southeast will take you over Windsor, Canada, and then across Lake Erie to Cleveland, Ohio. So that is where we will be going. So my first foreign trip, if you want to call it that, when I was 21 or 22, I had to go to Detroit for business, and I was staying for a few days, and I'm like, I'm going to go into another country. I'm going to cross the border into Windsor. And literally we went across the border, and there was a little tiny shack of a restaurant right there. I think we had a steak or something. It was me and a coworker, and I was straight out of college. I just felt so adult. It was wonderful. It was a long time ago, but just funny memories. But so I know Windsor, and I think most people know Windsor because that used to be the, you can go to Canada. And I think some of it was like, I think the drinking age in Canada is lower than it is in the U.S. So I think like people who lived in Detroit and stuff also, that was their thing, because I think it's like 18 in Canada or something versus 21 in the U.S. And so, you can go while you're still in high school for some people, rather than, you're in college or on with your life, whatever it is. But this is only a 21-mile leg. You can see we're already down to 10. You can start to see some buildings coming out. And there is, a river, again, another river that now goes from Lake St. Clair to Lake Erie, or really from Lake Erie to Lake St. Clair, because the water flow, I think, would be the other way and then drain out through the Mississippi River. But I don't know, maybe everything flows and goes out into the Atlantic. I honestly don't know. This is an unknown to me. But yeah, more and more the Detroit skyline is coming into view. And this is kind of right on the water, so that might be the football stadium or something. But just like when we were in Kansas City, we'll try to get a good view of it. I'll try to do better than I did with the Chrysler building. Part of the problem was I waited and couldn't get myself kind of situated, and as I zoomed in and so forth, it just didn't quite work out really well. So hopefully I didn't get anybody motion sick with the crazy camera movement there, or what looked like camera movement. But Detroit itself has a pretty bad reputation, I guess. Not that, Cleveland's better. I think all these Rust Belt industrial cities have kind of fallen on hard times since the mid-20th century, the 50s and the 60s. These were the towns. New York was New York. Certainly it was important, but everything else, like, LA and a lot of those places, less impactful. Again, pretty big plant. Looks like maybe a on-site test track or something, just to do some things. Not sure. But let's align ourselves here. It looks like, well, maybe that is where we're headed. So maybe that's where the fields are. Let's zoom in a bit. Nope. So Ford Field, you can see the Ford logo, and Comerica Park. So we're going to start to turn. And again, there's a bridge here somewhere. And that's how you get into Windsor. I don't know if it's over there or the other way. Yeah, it could be there. I don't know. I've not been in the air. You know, I drove over the bridge, so I couldn't tell you. So I think we're at the right heading, although it doesn't quite look like it. It looks like we need to turn a little bit more, but we may not. And now we are crossing part of Canada and Lake Erie that's up there. So, you know, again, all of this is that river, and then that's the head of Lake Erie there that we go into. But there will be another point that I think I've flown over in other things. So there's an airport, Charlie Yankee Quebec Golf is this airport. It doesn't have any words around it, so I couldn't tell you. Is it the Windsor airport? That would seem logical, because it's still kind of within the city limits of Windsor. But real short runway there, and then a little bit longer one directly below us. 7 and what would that be? 25, I think. Yep, 25. At 18, at 180 degrees. Again, something that I guess logically I should have known, but I really didn't before I got into aviation. So, or flight simming. Not really into aviation in real life, but it's too expensive. Kind of like why I'm not into golf in real time. But aviation, I think, puts golf to shame as far as cost. Remember to put the wheels down. I'm trying to get it in my head. Probably only halfway. So let's see. Coming up on an hour, so maybe we'll get done in 2 hours. We'll see how this all pans out. I think that would be a little quick. I think it's going to take a little longer than that. Because again, we're only going 226, and if that was the ground speed, I guess, see, maybe the thing is, like, maybe this is the ground speed, 243. So, so maybe, because 243 would, you know, because I think we were at closer to 250 at one point. So that would get us 500 miles of ground covered. But this is about 80 nautical miles, but kind of halfway across Lake Erie. We're then getting out of Canada, and we're back into the United States and into Ohio, because we were in Michigan when we left the U.S., but at this point, straight south of us, which is probably in that direction somewhat, because we are on a heading of 136. So we're almost directly down the middle, 45-degree angle from east to south. And but down there, then we would be crossing into Ohio already. If we just went straight south, is what I meant. So there's an island out kind of in the middle of the lake with an airport. Might be what we're seeing here. It's not small. Obviously, it, you know, wouldn't be small given that it has there's a bunch of little islands with little airports, so that would, you know, I'm sure they're like for fishing or whatever. But yeah, this little point, because it does come to a direct point. I've flown over that. I may have flown over that in one of the NASCAR series. I don't know if it was that or if I've just flown over it, but I do remember talking about it as I went over it, and I don't normally talk to myself when I fly, so I likely was recording. So, well, I don't normally talk to myself at any point. I probably should clarify that. So, but, I don't normally do Flight Simulator and talk to myself, oh, look at this land we're passing over. I'd have an inner dialogue, but not out loud. So I do remember speaking out loud about it as I went over, but I was more coming from here and just barely passing over the tip, where we're really kind of going to go off the edge of it, but really up at this point, like, we're still going to be well into land by a couple miles. So some more windmills down there. Well, what have we got? 60 miles, so we'll get ourselves, again, I'll kind of give you the view, I'll mute the mic, and when we start getting close to crossing the lake, we'll start chatting again about, well, I suppose I should let you know, because now we're past that waypoint. So, it did say we're heading to Cleveland, Ohio, but then it's look straight down as you cross the coast. That building is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and is just east of the Great Lakes Science Center and First Energy Stadium. So First Energy Stadium is the Browns. We've got Progressive Field downtown too, but it's not near the lake, so we may not get as clear of a view of it, but that's the Cleveland Guardians now. They used to be the Cleveland Indians, one of the original baseball teams to start Major League Baseball in 1901. So they've been around a long, long time, like my favorite Cubbies as well, were one of those teams that started the league as well. But anyway, the waypoint is set a couple miles inland, so that turning northeast will not take us over the approach to Lakefront Airport. So in Cleveland, there is an active lakefront airport, unlike Msfs Field in Chicago, which is now defunct and dismantled. But Burke Lakefront Airport is still there. I wouldn't say it's incredibly busy. I see private planes come in once in a while. Again, it's not like I'm nearby or down there or whatever, but once in a while I'll see a plane coming into land or something as I'm driving downtown for something, which doesn't happen that often, but given that I've seen multiple flights, it probably is a relatively. So yes, that is the bigger island with an airport on there, and we're still on the Canada side. That island's fully in Canada, so it's a C or a Charlie. Airport is the first letter in the identifier. All right, I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so coming up on Cleveland, you can see the skyline there. Less than 10 miles to go. Again, a couple miles inland is the waypoint, so we're going to be hitting the shoreline pretty quick. Ooh, look at that. You got the moon's reflection in the water. Pretty cool. I haven't gone to take a look if we can see it that clearly. It was that way when I flew a couple days ago, too, and I know that part, I think, Microsoft does moon placement and stuff by time of day. And so this is the Lakefront Airport. That's Burke Airport. So that's where the Cleveland Air and Water Show is. You'd think it'd be fun and exciting, but not so much. I'm just spoiled by how pleasant the Chicago experience is and so forth. But the one thing I will say, like, because I've seen a couple air shows here, they do, like if the Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels are here, they'll set up there and they actually do take off. So that you don't get to see, like at the Air and Water Show in Chicago. They're doing it from other places. So that is the Brown Stadium. That's First Energy Stadium. Progressive Field's kind of over here. So again, we may go over Quicken Loan, well, Rocket Mortgage Field House now. It used to be Quicken Loans Arena. But that's the Terminal Tower. That's kind of the old famous building in Cleveland from the 1900s. And that's the Key Bank Tower, which is a big one. Alright, so that's where the Guardians play. And then that is where the Cavaliers play. And that is for a university. That's Cleveland State's Wolstein Center there. So, I'm not going to be able to give you all this information other places, but the couple places here, you know, I've lived in or lived nearby, and so I can give you some background that normally you wouldn't be able to get. But, so, if we had turned right away, their point was, you know, we'd be going over the airport. Now, again, I was focused, I'm sorry, on the stadiums. I forgot to point out the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and stuff, so you can back it up, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame looks a little bit like a glass pyramid. It's not quite the Luxor in Las Vegas. It's not nearly that big, but and then the Great Lakes Science Center is a little round and so forth. But now we're heading to Waypoint 5, and we've got what, 146 miles, so we've got a ways to go. But here we go. So, next waypoint is just northwest of Niagara Falls. We should have a great view of the falls as you turn southeast to the destination for this flight, Buffalo Niagara International Airport. So, that is the end of the narrative. That's where we're going to get to. So, you know, after waypoint 5, after the last waypoint, we always have an airport. Obviously, like last time, the last waypoint looks like we've got a plane coming in probably to the Lakefront Airport. So it's pretty nice. Again, benefit of having FSLTL. But we've got train line coming up there. I-90, I-90 I think is this way at this point. We've got an airport there. I think that's Cuyahoga Falls Airport. Just trying to look at things, and then Willoughby Executive Airport used to be Lost Nation or whatever. We're going to be heading near that. Kilo Lima November. That's an airport I've used at various points. I don't know if it's anything on the channel, but it's a nice little private airport, or a small airport. It's all general aviation stuff, no tower or anything. You know, even here I think Cuyahoga Airport does not have a tower. But I've landed at this airport, I think, in my Neofly series and stuff like that. And I may have started my Neofly series from there. I don't remember, from Kilo Lima November. But it's likely there. So yeah, I think this is I-90, and then this is a route called Route 2. I think it's an Ohio route. I don't think it's a U.S. route. But, you know, they kind of stay together for a bit, and you kind of know where things are in the community related to those two major roads and so forth. And obviously, not very far from the lakefront, you know, there's a facility there. I don't know that I remember what that is. Might be one of the... No, the power plant that I'm thinking of is closer to the interstate there, but yeah. That is coming up there. But yeah, there's... So that's why it's Lima, November. Like I said, it used to be Lost Nation, because there's a Lost Nation road. This is what it's on. So this is the road that you'd come in and get to the airport from. But nice little airport, you know, and it's close to the water and stuff, so... This one, I would say, I believe it's busier than the lakefront airport, because I think there's just... I don't know if they do lessons out of there or whatever, but I see planes where I would say they're doing pattern work and things like that pretty frequently. So... pretty interesting. Alright, so we're heading out here. We're going to end up shortly going out over the lake again. And then that will, you know, that will, whatchamacallit, that will be what we'll be doing most of the time, because Niagara's on the other side then and so forth. So yeah, this is like lagoons and so forth. There's some houses in there sometimes. Just a cool, interesting water feature. I don't know what the history of that is, but I've always found it intriguing whenever I see it overhead. Alright, so we are heading out of the U.S. soon for a bit, but then we'll be right back, because Buffalo is Buffalo, New York, so we are coming back and landing in the U.S. But just kind of enjoying the view a little bit here. But as you can see, it's kind of, you know, we're kind of out of the sprawl of Cleveland now. We've gotten to the western edge, and now we're out into some of the little lake communities where, you know, people will live, obviously, for proximity to the lake, but there's some touristy things. I think those are a little further out up here. There's a place called Geneva on the Lake. There's little cabins there. People tend to vacation there and so forth. But not quite sure how far out we are. But and then, you know, we're gonna have Erie, Pennsylvania's on the lake too. But we're gonna be a good ways out. We're probably gonna be 20 miles off the shoreline by then. So we're not going to really be able to see anything. But not sure. Let's see if I hop back in. Still 120 miles, so I'm definitely going to go ahead and, you know, put myself on mute and let myself go. But I'm going to look out this way this time, just because otherwise you're just going to have water for now. So for however long, you'll get some views of the Ohio and Pennsylvania shoreline. Alright, well, sorry, I didn't realize until I put my headset back on that I've had the sound off for a period of time. I don't know how long. We're now in Canada, if you haven't figured that out. I changed the view as I was crossing over the lake, just because I knew the Canadian shore would come up and there'd be something to look at. But we're heading straight toward Niagara Falls. Not quite sure exactly which side they're going to be on or so forth. Hopefully we'll get a good view of them. But we're still, what were we? A few miles. 9 miles away, so, you know, we've got a ways to go. So yeah, this is not the river. It's more that river there. That's, I think, one of the bends. And then we're going to turn, not quite due south. We're going to go on heading 170 and get ourselves to the RNAV approach for Buffalo, which is going to be about a 20 nautical mile run. Get us back out over the lake. But yeah, Niagara Falls, definitely one of the wonders of the world, right? You know, I mean, I don't know that it's an official wonder of the world. It probably isn't, but it's pretty impressive. I only recently got to go there in person for the first time in my life, after being, you know, around for decades and decades. So, so it's, the river splits and there's two pieces, and it may be right over in that area there. So I think is what we're seeing. It's just which side of the plane are we going to be on? Is it going to turn? Is it going to do whatever? But yeah, I'm thinking that's what we've got there. So let's see. I know when I was there, there were definitely hotels around. I'm just trying to get a nice view. But yeah, so that's one side. Yeah, that's the big one there. So it's almost, it kind of loops around, but the river's obviously flowing and then, you know, kind of coming down that way. Oh, let's see if we can get a nice view. Pretty sweet. So, and so if you ever take the Lady of the Mist, they bring you down in there. Lots of stuff going on. But I'm trying to get my bearings. Because, yeah, now this is going... Yeah, see, so I guess if I look at that, obviously the water's flowing that way. So that means water's flowing out of Lake Erie and then coming in, you know, going into Lake Ontario and heading to the ocean. So I think that's answered my question on the water flow. Because behind us now, yes, is Lake Ontario up there, and the water's obviously flowing that way. So it kind of goes around, you know, around this island. It's called Grand Island. Very, I'm sure someone took a long time to come up with that name. Let's see, where is it flying to? So it's going to 13 miles, but is it going to Wabus? Or is it going somewhere else? Or is it going to the airport? That's my concern. Like, where is it headed? Oh, I see. It's going to Hyron. I think I need it to go to Wabus, honestly. So let's see. Add a waypoint. Wabus. Enter. Did it do it after? Add a waypoint. Yeah, it's like it's trying to put it... Oh, I see. It just kind of decided to get us there. So let's see. Direct. Cancel. Cancel. Alright, so it may be going there now. Because it did, the plane did change direction, and it's headed appropriately there. I just want to give myself enough time to get in, because otherwise I think it's just not going to be good. So... But yeah, I was actually taking a peek at the third leg, and I think that's when I probably lost the sound for you guys. Not that, you know, hearing the propeller is anything super exciting, but, you know, it's better than what it was, because Hiron's basically on land already. Alright, so we are 11 miles out. But once we start to turn, we're definitely gonna decrease. So let's see. If I now push back, I'm definitely gonna pull the throttle back and then get out of the 850 mode. So that'll get a bunch of things down. And again, I need to be below 180 to safely go ahead and do some of the flaps and so forth. Is I think what it normally has told me. Just looking through my notes here. Descent. Yeah, below 180 knots you can start extending your flaps. That's what I thought I saw. And that should be 7.5 miles from landing. They're suggesting putting landing gear down. So it's in my head right now. If somehow I still forget to do it, shame on me, I guess. But, alright. But we're going to let this kind of line up. At this point, we're going to go down. I'm going to set this on V speed. We're going to start descending. So that should get us aligned and get us in a good spot. I'm going to back off on the throttle and start slowing down. But at this point we're 11 nautical miles out. And we're already down to 3,000. Let's see. Let me go here. Let me get myself maybe a 2,000. That might be a better position. Alright. Just trying to make sure I back off enough here. Alright, so there we go. We'll get flaps down now. That should obviously slow us down some more. I'm not quite sure if that's the runway or not. Let me get my landing monitor down. So there we go, 1,800 feet. But should be pretty close here. You know, I'm gonna go down to 1,500. Or is it trying to capture already? No, it's not, so it should keep going down, I would think. No, it's trying to capture again, so there we go. Alright. So now we've kind of kicked it in the pants again. Got it to go down a little further, but if I get down there, that will get me below 1,000 feet, I think, above ground level. Alright, and again, I am now putting my gear down. So there we go. So we'll just make sure. I have wheels. They're not out yet, but now they are. So now they're all green. So I won't be belly dragging this time. That's always a good thing. Alright, well now I'm dangerously slow is my problem. So let me speed up a bit. We'll get the speed up a tiny bit. Less than 5 miles out. And then again, I want to land, you know, at a good, I don't want to be going too fast, so. But we'll get down there. We're down to 4 miles from the airport. So at this point, I'm going to disengage. And we're going to fly this in. Give ourselves some time. So we'll get the yaw damper off, because that should help us in theory. So I see a little bit how that works. I didn't honestly know that until recently, that it was suggested. I think video I read or something, but basically they were like, you know, you want to turn off yaw damper before you land, and I never knew that. So I think it potentially creates the situation where you're not pointing as cleanly at the runway, because again, we've got a crosswind of like 7 or 8 knots, which is part of the issue. But so let me. I feel like I need to be further over here. But my flaps are fully extended. Alright, so now I think we've got the inner markers and all that. Again, it's not beeping because of the the landing gear. So I should hopefully be okay. We're 200 feet. Probably want to be careful. I don't know what that sound is. Like, it just talks about tones, but it obviously can't give you an example of the tones in the book. So I'm going to idle because I'm going a little faster than I would normally like, but this should be good. And again, should be able to land pretty gently here. There we go. I would say that's a pretty good landing, and this time we're not dragging. So, well, there's planes over there, but I wonder if I want to go. Yeah, I probably want to go to the right for general aviation, because that's more terminal, and that's not me. So, let's see. Turn off here. Alright, and we still have about half the fuel left, so yeah, I mean, I have the throttle off, but oh goodness, there we go. Alright, is there another runway? I don't think so. I don't know, maybe that is a... I'm not looking at the chart, which is probably not a good idea. Yeah, I guess it is another runway, so probably shouldn't be doing this, using it as a taxiway. But there's a lot of clearly general aviation aircraft over there. So that is where I'm headed. There we go. So we have made our second leg of 234, so that puts me not quite at 1% complete. But it may be a while until I get to the third leg, I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly enthusiastic about this. It is fun. But I think it's going to be like anything else. It's just going to get a little bit difficult to keep up with later. There's not really any spots here. So we may just have to say, looks like maybe over by those guys. Use guys over here. We're in New York. We can talk that way, right? So I'm just coming in this way. I mean, you would think the way the lines are drawn that you'd park the other way, but not sure that's true. So I'm going to come in here. I should be good there. I think I'm clear. Yep, we're in the space. We're a little wider than he is, but alright, but at this point we should be able to cut our engine off. And that should do it then. One thing I haven't done is turn things off here. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. It's winding down. All right. So we'll head on up, turn everything off. It's not really the best way to shut it down, but you know, I'm sure there's some things we want to do that are probably a better sequence than what I did. Turn the radio master off. And there we go. A little over 2 hours. So just got our parking brake on. So that's there. You know, we can get all the other pieces off. I'm just trying to kind of make sure everything I turned on I shut off. Probably a good thing to get in the habit of and just understand what we're doing. We'll get the flaps up. I think they might not move now that the plane is off. So shame on me, but get the crash bar down. Get the ignition off. I mean, yeah, we've got no draw, I guess, is what the amps are. But at this point, like, I think like even the temp has gone off. The chronometer, I think, has probably got its own battery. So I think that's always on. But I think we're fully set here. So hopefully you've enjoyed the second leg here. I certainly have. I think that view of Niagara was very cool. So I'm looking forward to things, because really next time it looks like we're heading out to the East Coast, New York. So, you know, along the coast there by New York City and so forth. I've certainly seen New York City, but as I continue on, you know, we're definitely very soon going to be getting into places of the world I've not been to, and I'm really looking forward to things, you know, in Europe and in Africa and South America and just, you know, places that I've maybe only seen on TV. But I wonder, you know, will it take us to Iguazu Falls, which I think is in Venezuela, or Victoria Falls? I think those are gigantic falls, even, you know, bigger than Niagara, taller, things like that. You know, those might be impressive sights, but so far I'm pretty pleased with what Ducky 1955 has done here. I'm hoping I don't like mess up the name. I don't have it up, so I apologize if somehow he ends up listening and he's like, you never referred to me other than the first video by the right name. I'm going from memory. I think it's Ducky, because I think for a while I said dusty. I know that's wrong, because I remember looking it up. But, you know, we'll see how the plane treats us. I'm enjoying the aircraft. I think it's a really cool model, so, you know, you can pick this up if you're looking for a good general aviation aircraft, but the Piper Comanche probably is still number one, I think, at the rating, because I think I discovered this in like top 3 planes in each category, and I think this was in the category with the Piper, but the Piper was number 1 and this was number 2. So I was like, well, I know I like the TBM, and I think the Piper has fewer seats, so it just would give me some options in perhaps Career Series or something that I could do some stuff if I ever get to that point. But I definitely am finding I do enjoy this aircraft more than I thought I would. So it's pretty sweet, but definitely had a good time, and if you did as well and haven't dropped a like, please consider doing that. If you are not a subscriber to the channel yet, please consider that. You can keep up with whatever I'm putting out, and I will see you next time.